Hello, this is Chris Kane on behalf of Lisa Hollingshead, CEO at Sight for White, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday the 6th of May, on the most momentous day of King Charles III's coronation of Great Britain. This week, we were delighted to welcome 60 members to our Sight for White Coronation Party that we held on Thursday. The event was attended by both Dawn Haig-Thomas, the High Sheriff of the Isle of Wight, and Claire Critchison, the Chairman of the Isle of Wight Council. The event included a wide variety of homemade cakes made by volunteers and sandwiches made by staff. There was entertainment from Maurice Kachuk, who sung a selection of golden oldies. Also this week, we have had our usual clubs and activities, which included yoga on Tuesday and our Wednesday coffee morning here at Millbrook House. These are just some of the activities we provide, so if you would like to join, then please do not hesitate to contact the office for more information. Lisa is currently away, enjoying some sunshine. Stay safe. Chris, on behalf of Lisa, CEO at Sight for White.
Hello everyone, this is Steve reading a story from Isle of Wight Radio, headlined Vectis Radio wins gold at National Industry Awards. Newport's Vectis Radio achieved the Gold Award in the Community Station of the Year category at the Audio and Radio Industry Awards on Tuesday night. A glittering event held in London's Theatre Royal Drury Lane was attended by swarms of the great and the good of the UK radio industry and more than a few celebrities. Vectis Radio picked up the prestigious Gold Award as the Community Station of the Year. Judged by a panel of experts and organised by the Radio Academy, the ARIAs are the biggest awards in the UK for radio and audio production. The event was hosted by Roylan and Fleur East. Station manager and founder of Vectis Radio Ian Mack said, "This is the proudest day in the station's history. I'm over the moon. Thank you to the Radio Academy for shining a light on community radio and indeed Vectis Radio. We, like other community stations, do incredible work in our community on a shoestring budget." Fellow director Kelvin Curry added, "I'm speechless. To stand on that West End stage in front of all those luminaries from UK radio and accept this award still seems surreal. This award shows what a small team on a small island can achieve." As a final touch, the organisers of the event played the hit track Chaise Longue from island duo Wet Leg as Ian and Kelvin walked on stage to receive the award.
This is Patrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Food inflation hits another record high as pressure mounts on home finances. Food prices increased by a record annual rate of 15.7% last month, as pressure continues to mount on household finances. Fresh food prices saw a record jump of 17.8% year-on-year for April, while the price of ambient products such as tinned goods and other store cupboard items went up 12.9%. The latest figures come as the average price of food and non-alcoholic drinks in the UK has been seeing its sharpest increase in more than 45 years. According to the latest BRC Nielsen IQ Shop Price Index, shop prices went up 8.8% last month compared to the same period in the previous year. This figure was slightly down from 8.9% in March and followed spring discounting at fashion and furniture stores. It came as non-food stores recorded inflation of 5.5% for the month, slipping from 5.9% in March as shops reduced prices in a bid to attract customers. Helen Dickinson, Chief Executive of the British Retail Consortium, said, "Overall, shop price inflation increased slightly in April due to heavy spring discounting in clothing, footwear and furniture. However, food prices remained elevated, giving ongoing cost pressures throughout the supply chain. Meanwhile, the price of butter and vegetable oils started to come down as retailers passed on cost savings from further up the supply chain. Mike Watkins, head of retail and business insight at Nielsen IQ, said, "In recent weeks, more retailers have used loyalty schemes or money off promotions to help stimulate sales. However, with inflation yet to peak and sales volume in decline in many channels, it's difficult to second-guess the strength of consumer confidence." The Trussell Trust charity recently reported a record near 3 million emergency food parcels were handed out at food banks in the year to March, as more households continued to struggle with bills and food costs. The number of food parcels provided for children topped 1 million for the first time.
This is Michael reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. All change at Yarmouth Town Council following bullying and intimidation allegations. It is all change at an Isle of Wight Town Council as a new mayor steps up, hoping to bring peace to the fractious meetings. It comes as one of the old guard steps down. At Yarmouth Town Council, YTC, meeting last night, Tuesday, Councillor Debbie McCleary was unanimously voted in as the town's mayor after serving on the council for 12 years. Taking her position, she said it was very unexpected, but she would continue to do her best for the good of Yarmouth and Thorley. At the same time, Rodney Corbett announced his resignation from the town council and the position of deputy mayor. He said, "As I turn 80, I believe it is time for me to stand down. I have served the town since I was 18, first as a fireman for 37 years and more than 22 years as a town councillor, town trust member and in many other roles." Councillor McCleary thanked Mr Corbett for all his hard work and said he was a very valued member of the community. Taking over his position as Deputy Mayor, also with unanimous support, was Councillor Jill Head. Jill Head has been on the Town Council for 6 years, serving the Thorley ward after moving to the island. She had previously served in other local authorities on the mainland. Following a few agitated meetings in the last couple of months, with shouting and allegations of bullying and intimidation, councillors hoped the new leadership will move things forward in a positive way. Councillor McCleary said she hoped the issue could be resolved, but they needed to move on. Former Yarmouth Mayor, Councillor Steve Cowley, congratulated Councillor McCleary on her new position and thought she would bring a degree of calm to the role. Nominations are currently being sought for the seat of former Mayor Jamie Allen, who served in the post for 7 months, but had been on the Town Council for more than 6 years. Those looking to join YTC must submit their nomination papers by 4 p.m. on May the 11th to the return officer at County Hall in Newport. If the seat is contested, an election will be held on June the 8th. Submissions to fill Mr Corbett's will take place on a later date.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Ireland, still a safe place to live, despite increase in recorded crime. The Isle of Wight remains one of the safest counties in the country, despite an increase in recorded crime, it is claimed. The island's 2021-22 strategic assessment shows there were 185 fewer incidents of antisocial behaviour during the first 3 quarters of 2022 compared to the same time the previous year. The report, published by the Isle of Wight Community Safety Partnership, CPS, also reveals a drop in the number of young people entering the justice system, as well as a 16.77% fall in youth reoffending since 2019. While crime rose from 64.5 per 1,000 population in 2020 to 2021 to 77.9 per 1,000 in the year up to the end of March 2022, the CSP notes the Isle of Wight continues to have the third lowest crime rate among its statistical neighbours. It also points to recent YouGov data which shows most island residents feel safe. Amanda Gregory, CSP chair, said almost all comparator areas have seen an increase in recorded crime during 2021 to 22. This is likely to be a result of the pandemic artificially suppressing crime previously. I am pleased that the island has some of the lowest rates of crime in the country, but there is still much work to be done, particularly around violence against the person, which accounts for almost half of recorded island crime. We are committed to preventing these offences, tackling offenders and ensuring that victims are supported and that crimes are effectively investigated. District Commander for the Isle of Wight, Superintendent Rob Mitchell, said, "This data that reflects recorded crime on the island until the end of March 2022 has helped my officers over the last year to identify our priorities to keep our communities safe." An increase in crime reports was to be expected following the easing of national restrictions during the pandemic, as more people visited our communities and some crimes, such as domestic abuse, became more visible following periods of lockdown. An increase in reports also highlights a level of increased confidence from victims of crime to report incidents to the police. Where appropriate, we look to work with our partners to divert youngsters away from this type of behaviour so they can make a positive contribution to society. The CSP consists of several organisations working together to reduce crime, antisocial behaviour and ensure people feel safe. The partnership produces an annual strategic assessment to provide a summary of data and analysis on crime and antisocial behaviour, to highlight significant community safety issues and enable identification of priorities for the CSP. It is important for partners to understand the levels and patterns of crime and disorder on the Isle of Wight, to enable them to ensure the right priorities are identified and to target resources effectively. The 2021-22 Strategic Assessment is due to go before the Isle of Wight's Council Corporate Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday, the 9th of May.
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo, headlined, Ellen MacArthur Cancer Trust celebrates 20 years as Round the Island race returns. Since becoming the race charity in 2005, over £300,000 has been raised for the Trust, enabling the charity to support hundreds of young people post-treatment. No fewer than 24 young people will once again be taking part in the race across 4 boats this year. To mark this special occasion, race entrants are encouraged to make a positive difference in young people's lives this summer by joining the charity's #200for20 birthday challenge, which is launching on the day of the race, which is Saturday 1st of July. Competitors and friends of the race will be encouraged to raise £200, which will help the Trust support up to 750 young people this year, more than ever before, as they take the next steps after their cancer treatment. The Ellen MacArthur Cancer Trust is a national charity that takes young people aged 8 to 24 on sailing and outdoor adventures to inspire them to believe in a brighter future living through and beyond cancer. When treatment ends, the Trust's work begins, because for many, simply picking up where they left off before their diagnosis just isn't possible. One of the young people is Sonal, who was first supported by the Trust in 2021 after treatment for refractory Hodgkin lymphoma, which she was diagnosed with 5 years ago. She returned for a 4-day sailing trip from East Cowes in 2022 and will sail as part of the Trust's crew for the race this summer. Reflecting on her time with the Trust, she said, "I was diagnosed just after I finished university and went through 3 years of treatment. Then COVID came on the back of that. So it feels like life pushed pause on getting a job, starting a career, moving away. They're all things everyone else my age has been doing. I feel less alone at the Trust. It's easy to forget you're not the only one experiencing this. Meeting people who have been in the same boat as you is great. So is being in a situation where you're a little out of your comfort zone and being challenged like this, because it shows me that I can still do things. It gives you some confidence again." Frank Fletcher, who's the CEO of Ellen MacArthur Cancer Trust, said, "This year we launched our Ambitions 23 to 25 with the aim of being accessible and inclusive to all young people who have a cancer diagnosis in the UK and ensuring every young person experiences belonging and improved mental well-being with the Ellen MacArthur Cancer Trust. What we achieve in the next 3 years will lay the foundations for the next 20. Thank you to the sailors who will help us achieve this by taking part in this year's race."
This is Patrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Isle of Wight Holiday Park alcohol licence approved, despite community concerns. Despite concerns about a possible increase in antisocial behaviour, an Isle of Wight holiday park has been given permission to extend its hours it can sell alcohol. It has also been agreed alcohol can be brought for consumption outside of bars and restaurants at Shanklin's Landguard Holiday Park. On Friday, April the 28th, the Isle of Wight Council's licensing committee agreed changes to the Parkdean Resorts licence, allowing alcohol sold in bars, restaurants and the on-site shop to be consumed elsewhere. It can also now be sold between 10 a.m, 2 hours earlier than before, and midnight. At the meeting today, a Parkdean representative said the change would allow guests to take drinks back to their caravan, adding there are already shops selling alcohol nearby. The application was described as a chance to tidy up an old licence. The residents fear an increase in noise and trouble, arguing lives have already been impacted by noise disturbance and antisocial behaviour. One neighbour said they dread when the park reopens each year. In a comment sent to the Isle of Wight Council, the resident said it would encourage later drinking and mean holidaymakers walking the streets in a drunken state. County Hall's environmental health experts said there has been no noise complaint since 2016. Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary said it was last called to an incident of antisocial behaviour in 2019. Parkdean's spokesperson said today's changes will make the conditions clear and transparent for everyone, adding some of the things being requested are already allowed anyway. The park could put up signs to ask customers to be quiet, the holiday firm said. Entertainment can also now start at 10 a.m. and run until midnight. Meanwhile, and refreshments can be sold between 11 p.m. and midnight.
This is Michael reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Golden boys arrive at Monkey Haven in Newport. Monkey Haven has welcomed 2 critically endangered yellow-breasted capuchins, also known as golden-bellied capuchins, to their forever home at the sanctuary. Dennis and Joan are brothers who were born at Edinburgh Zoo as part of the European Endangered Species Programme. In recent years, the family had fallen apart, so the island's primate rescue charity was asked to rehome them. Monkey Haven's founder, Don Welser, said, We were only able to offer these lovely animals a home once we had moved our family of white-throated capuchins into their fancy new home, which we have just built. We have now finished the refurb of the old enclosure in time for Dennis and Juan's arrival on May the 3rd. We're grateful to White Link for providing ferry travel and also donating rope for the capuchins to play on. White Link Commercial Director Phil Delaney added, "We're really pleased to be supporting the Monkey Haven with travel to bring Dennis and Juan to their new home on the island. We hope they will quickly settle into their new surroundings and enjoy playing on the old mooring rope we have donated for their enclosure." The yellow-breasted capuchins are native to the Atlantic rainforest in Brazil. Hunting and habitat loss has led to the population dropping by 80% over the past 50 years. There are less than 3,000 left in the wild. In the 1980s, the Brazilian government got involved with the European Endangered Species Programme to ensure there was a genetically healthy backup population bred in captivity. So although Dennis and Juan are living at Monkey Haven, they will always belong to Brazil. These monkeys are mostly brown and black, but get their name from the golden yellow fur that covers their upper arms, chest and stomach. They are highly vocal and communicate with each other using barks, screams, whistles and chattering.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Young girls recognised for their bravery in saving Mum's life in Ryde house fire. 2 young girls from Ryde have been recognised for their bravery at this year's Isle of Wight District Commanders Awards after a fire ripped through their family home back in 2020, leaving their mum badly injured. At a special ceremony in Newport, awards were given out to police officers, police staff and members of the public for their outstanding actions and for going above and beyond to protect the public on the Isle of Wight. Superintendent Rob Mitchell, who hosted the annual event at the Newport Congregational Church last Wednesday, the 26th of April, welcomed a number of special guests, including Chief Constable Scott Chilton and High Sheriff Dawn Haig Thomas. Attendees heard of the bravery and dedication of not only police officers and staff from Hampshire Constabulary working on the island, but of selfless members of the public who came to the aid of others in their time of need. This included the actions of youngsters Caitlin and Alice John. At just before 7 o'clock on the 13th of August 2020, a fire broke out on the first floor of a property on Swansmoor Road in Ryde. Inside the address were Sian John and her 2 children, Caitlin, aged 12 at the time, and Alice, then aged 9. After shouting for her children to get themselves and the family dog safely out of their home, Sian began to battle the fire with bowls of water, but soon became overpowered by the smoke and flames. Within minutes, 42-year-old Sian collapsed and is thought to have lost consciousness. Worried that her mum had not yet exited the property, Caitlin went back into the house and pulled Sian to safety. The 2 girls then both tended to Sian while they awaited the arrival of the emergency services. 25 firefighters from 3 different stations battled the flames, with paramedics from the Isle of Wight ambulance service checking over the John family. The family dog was left startled but otherwise uninjured. Although the swift actions of the fire service saved the adjoining house, the Johns' property was extremely damaged and was not habitable for a number of months. Sian suffered serious burn injuries and was taken to Salisbury Hospital, where she remained for a number of weeks. The girls escaped injury and were discharged after being taken to hospital. Last week's awards ceremony heard that Caitlin demonstrated leadership beyond her years towards her younger sister, giving her instruction to stay calm and to keep herself and the dog safe. It was noted that Alice acted bravely by listening to her older sister, by taking instruction from her, and not risking her own safety when she feared the worst. Caitlin's brave actions saved her mother's life that day. In recognition of their actions, Caitlin was presented with a certificate from the Society for the Protection of Life from Fire, and Alice was presented with a letter of commendation from the Society. Speaking at the ceremony, Superintendent Rob Mitchell said, "Today is a chance for me to bring together our officers and staff who have conducted exceptional policing throughout the year. Quite often the work they do they see as business as usual, but it's not. They safeguarded vulnerable people, caught criminals, and they got justice for victims. We don't always hear that being celebrated or talked about, and this is a chance to bring everyone together with their family and friends and actually recognise when they've gone the extra mile. Ultimately, we're very lucky on the Isle of Wight. We have an awful lot of officers who are committed. They work tirelessly during the weekends, during public holidays, and they give up birthdays in order to go the extra mile to keep the public safe." Tonight, in the company of the Chief Constable and our new High Sheriff, it was great to hear some fantastic stories about bravery, about endurance in pursuing outcomes for vulnerable people, whether it's antisocial behaviour or protecting them from crime. And even this evening as well, we had a couple of young girls who saved their mother from a burning building.
Hi, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo, headlined Isle of Wight Council to support No Mo May campaign. The Isle of Wight Council is supporting the national No Mo May campaign at several of its sites. The campaign aims to encourage people to liberate their lawns. Letting the grass grow will provide a feast for insects and bees and lock away greenhouse gases which contain carbon below ground. Councillor Jonathan Bacon, Cabinet Member for Climate Change and the Environment, said, "Not mowing in May will support the biosphere and United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of life on land to protect, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems and halt biodiversity loss. Encouraging biodiversity is really important for our environment. Wild orchids, including the declining man orchid, the green-winged orchid, the southern and northern marsh orchid, and bee orchid can light up liberated lawns." Natasha Dix, the Council's Head of Environment, added, "The National Every Flower Counts survey last year found that 1 square metre on a typical lawn had 17 daisies and a smattering of buttercups and dandelions and other native species. The world's bee population is threatened. By leaving lawns to flower, even just for a month, you will support our local bees and the wider biodiversity structures that they provide critical balance to. I'd encourage everyone to get involved." For safety reasons, the Council will continue to mow the first metre of roadside verges throughout May, and a number of outdoor spaces that serve sport and recreation activities. However, the Council will be letting some areas return to their natural state throughout the month. In 2021, No Mo Mayors reported more than 250 plant species including wild strawberry, wild garlic, and a dazzling array of rarities including adder's tongue fern, meadow saxifrage, snake's head fritillary, and eyebright. For more information about No Mo May, visit www.plantlife.org.uk/campaigns/No Mo May.
This is Patrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Future of Dinosaur Isle set to be discussed. Plans to safeguard the future of Dinosaur Isle in Sandown would go before senior Isle of Wight councillors next week. As part of a potential new partnership with the Isle of Wight Council, talks have already taken place with the world-renowned natural history museum in London, which could be brought on board to help manage the island's museum's important geology and fossil collection. The collection we hold on the island is second only in importance to that held by the Natural History Museum itself. The artefacts and specimens, which include the partial fossilized remains of the largest meat-eating dinosaur ever found in Europe, would remain in council ownership and preserved on the island, where many of them were unearthed. According to Cabinet papers released today, Tuesday, the authority is also seeking an experienced partner to take on the day-to-day running of the museum as a commercially operated trust. Initial discussions are underway with Hampshire Cultural Trust to this end. The Trust currently manages museums and cultural venues for Hampshire County Council and Winchester City Council. Cabinet members are being asked to approve further negotiations with both potential partners as the Council looks to underline its commitments to securing the long-term sustainability of Dinosaur Isles in Culver Parade and project its museum accreditation. Councillor Jonathan Bacon, Cabinet Member for Heritage, said, "The island is well known for its wealth of dinosaur fossils and our collection, which has national and international significance and is one of the island's most important heritage assets. Owning something of such significance brings responsibilities." The proposal also aligned with feedback received during recent stakeholder events hosted by the Council, at which retaining Dinosaur Isle in Sandown and operating it as a trust were the preferred options. The distinctive giant pterodactyl building opened its doors in 2001 and is home to more than 30,000 geological specimens, mainly fossils including partial and near-complete dinosaur skeletons. Over the past 200 years, a whole menagerie of ancient animals has been found on the island, from sauropods to theropods, with more specimens being unearthed on a regular basis.
This is Michael reading an article from Island Echo. Ryde Mayor insists residents' voices will still be heard after Westacre developments approved. A judicial review will allow Ryde voices to be heard, an Isle of Wight mayor said, after the controversial Westacre Park development was given the go-ahead. Local councillor Michael Lilly again questioned the procedures and processes behind a decision to approve its next phase, 473 new houses on the former Westridge farm site. The Isle of Wight Council maintains procedures have been followed correctly. The representative for Ryde Apley and Elmfield, Councillor Lilly, said he was very saddened by Tuesday's planning decision. He has since raised a number of issues around investigations into on-site wildlife and what he calls a lack of consultation on an issue which would change the natural environment forever. Isle of Wight Council insists it has followed the letter of the law in its handling of the scheme. The organisers of a campaign against Westacre Park are preparing a case for judicial review. Meanwhile, Isle of Wight Council's former Chief Executive, John Metcalfe, previously produced a report which offered a defence for every point. Councillor Lilly said, "This is now not about housing versus environment, but about fairness, transparency, proper process and law." Following the Planning Council's decision, once the legalities are signed off, campaigners will have 6 weeks to submit a case for judicial review.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Local author releases debut maritime novel to great acclaim. Lovers of historical maritime novels featuring naval heroes such as Hornblower, sharp and outlander, will love the debut novel by young local author Katie Daish. Indeed, one of the masters of the genre, best-selling author Con Iggulden, has called it an extraordinary work, absolutely breathtaking, it beggars belief. Published this month, May, it is the first of 3 novels to feature Captain Hiram Nightingale, a veteran of the wars that raged throughout Europe and the Americas for the last decades of the 18th century. Plagued by wounds, both physical and mental, he attempts to recover by accepting command of HMS Scylla. His task is to hunt down the mutineers of the HMS Ulysses off Trinidad and bring the ship and crew to justice. Ireland author Katie brings a fresh approach to the genre, challenging its sexual stereotypes and candidly exploring the inner life, mental vulnerabilities and insecurities of the traditional bulletproof male hero. It is a twist to tradition that has been enthusiastically received by early readers. Praise has also been forthcoming for the novel's historical accuracy and period detail, acknowledging the evident meticulous research that goes into writing a novel such as this. Interested readers are invited to the book launch at 1800 hours on Monday the 15th of May at Medina Bookshop in Cowes. As well as a free glass of wine, attendees will also be able to purchase the book and get it signed by the author herself. Medina Bookshop manager Paul Amfield said, "This is an extremely well-written debut and deserving of great success. Canello, who has published the book, have a great reputation in this genre and seem to be really getting behind it. We may well be looking at a successor to the likes of Patrick O'Brien. We look forward to the launch and watching Katie's writing career blossom."
Hello, this is Pauline.
And this is Mike.
Before we start the second part of the Talking News, here is this week's Society News for the 8th of May 2023. There is no swimming on Monday due to the bank holiday, but will resume on Monday the 15th of May. If you would like to come along for a swim or just relaxation in the water, we have the use of the whole pool between 1:15pm and 2:15pm during term time at Medina Leisure Centre, Newport. Yoga is on Tuesday at Millbrook between 1:45pm and 2:45pm. Refreshments will be served afterwards. Please note this is a new time. We will be at Our Place, the community cafe at West White Sports Centre, Moa Place Freshwater, on Tuesday between 10:30am and 12 noon. Come along and chat with staff and volunteers.
Coffee and chat will be on Wednesday between 10am and 11:30am here at Millbrook House. Please come along and chat with members, friends and staff. The monthly book group will meet at Millbrook House on Thursday the 11th. Please note the change of date and location. This is due to the Coronation Party and building works at the library. If you would like to join this free group, you are very welcome, and they may meet between 2pm and 3pm. On Friday, our wonderful volunteers will be in Morrison's, Newport, between 10am and 2pm, collecting money for charity. Please pop along and say hello. And finally, we must say a massive thank you to all our wonderful members, volunteers, trustees and staff who came along yesterday to our Coronation Party. What a wonderful afternoon everyone had. We must thank the volunteers who cooked the marvellous cakes for us. It's very much appreciated. Any for information of the activities or events mentioned, please do not hesitate to call the office on 52205.
And now we have the articles from the County Press. An Isle of Wight marching band is heading to Belgium to represent the UK in a major international parade. The island's very own Medina Marching Band will be at the Rosselaire VE Day International Tattoo, held in Pollenplon, Rosselaire, tomorrow, that's Saturday. The Newport-based band has been working on a new display in recent weeks, arranged by drum major Jason Penny. The day will kick off with a parade around the town and close with a massed band performance of Band of Brothers, European Anthem, The Last Post and the national anthems of the participating bands' countries. Chairman Kevin Downer said, "It's a real honour we have been selected to represent the island at this international event."
Hundreds of jobs. Hundreds of jobs could be created at a major warehouse development. A distribution building has been proposed at the Whippingham Technology Park, joining the Isle of Wight College's CECAMM Centre and Certus Energy Fuel Depot. The application has been submitted by Chartwood Holdings Pension Scheme, based in West Sussex, although some plans have been devised for company logistics for you. It forms part of a larger development proposed for the site next to GKN, with the first phase building a smaller distribution centre on the remaining part of the park. The first phase, which is also proposed by the same applicant, has yet to be submitted to the Isle of Wight Council. If both applications go ahead, all plots of the technology park would be full. The building in Phase 2 could be 1,680 square metres and have 24 distribution bays. It could create 200 jobs. Documents submitted to the Isle of Wight Council by the Planning and Development Hub say, the planning agents say as the company behind the proposal grows and demand increases from online shopping, the jobs would have generally higher value salaries than the island average. The development represents an important opportunity for investment and economic regeneration. It says, under the outline permission, the scale and access for the site are proposed. The Planning Hub argues the proposal already have planning permissions given the consent granted in 2011. When the technology park has been developed, outline permission has been granted to construct nearly 17,000 square metres of business, office, storage, distribution and warehouse space. It is said the technology park has been designed and laid out to accommodate commercial levels of traffic, and the potential increase in traffic has already been accounted for. Traffic movements from the site would include 4 40-foot lorries and 32 vans. Lorries would arrive via Red Funnel in the morning and leave at staggered times back to the mainland. Vans would leave the site in the morning and return in the afternoon. The plans 22/02293/OUT are on the Council's planning register. Comments can be submitted until June the 5th.
A new High Sheriff in town. Helping children improve their reading and writing skills is the aim of the island's new High Sheriff, and she has a plan to do it. Dawn Haig-Thomas is settling into the role after being sworn in last month. As with all those appointed to the position, she has certain aspirations she hopes to achieve by the time she steps aside next year. Her theme for the year is literacy, something she says has been catastrophically affected by the pandemic. She told the county press she wants to bring pupils' reading skills up to the stage they should be at. Dawn, who succeeds Kay Marriott in the role, is working with nationwide charity School Readers to put volunteers in island schools. Of course, we need to vet carefully who go into our schools, and School Readers will support the whole recruitment, training and onboarding of all the volunteers, she said. Of the 38 primary schools, we're doing a needs assessment at the moment to understand what they need in terms of volunteers. Dawn isn't afraid of rolling up her sleeves and getting involved either. She will be reading to pupils at her local school, Queensgate Foundation Primary, East Cowes. Queensgate is 5 minutes from home, and I've been warmly welcomed by the head there. It looks like a super school, and I can't wait to get to spend a couple of hours a week with Year 2. By next April, when she hands over the baton to someone else, she hopes to have moved the dial on literacy rates. She said only 68% of children moving up to secondary school on the island are at their chronological reading age. That's basically a third that aren't at the reading age they should be at. Of course, by next April, we wouldn't have had a full academic year, but I like to think we're out in place a programme that lasts and is sustainable. Dawn has a degree in politics and modern history and spent a year of business school before pursuing a career in management consultancy. Since moving to the island, Dawn has served as Vice Chair of the board for UKSA. She said her work as a school governor has fuelled her conviction that the single most empowering tool for a child is the ability to read.
Probe after children fall ill following Ryde farm visit. Health officials are investigating after a number of people, including children, reported feeling unwell following a visit to a popular farm in Ryde. Visitors to Hazel Grove Farm in Ashy have reported symptoms including diarrhoea, vomiting, abdominal cramps and a fever. The UK Health Security Agency, that's the UK HSA, South East, has confirmed it is working with the Isle of Wight Council after a small number fell ill. It said no one has fallen seriously unwell. However, the county press has been told some children have been taken to St Mary's Hospital as a precaution. UK HSA advice to anyone affected is to drink plenty of water to avoid dehydration and to stay away from work, clubs, swimming pools and other water and social activities until they have been symptom-free for 48 hours to prevent any spread. Dr. Kitty Mohan, consultant in health protection at UKHSA South East, said, "If symptoms continue, please contact your GP and where possible provide a stool sample for testing." Hazel Grove Farm offers lamb feeding sessions, making it a popular attraction for families. The county press has contacted the farm for comment. People with bookings to visit the farm say they have been cancelled this week. The 40-acre farm has been in the same family since 1965. According to the website, the farm has over 4,500 free-range chickens, 50 free-range ducks, a 70-strong herd of grass-fed cattle, a pasel of pigs, a flock of sheep and lambs, and an area for growing vegetables and soft fruits. If you have been affected in any way, you are urged to contact the Environmental Health Team at Isle of Wight Council on 01983 82 3000.
New mayor is elected. It is all change at a town council as a new mayor steps up, hoping to bring peace to fractious meetings. It comes as one of the old guard steps down. At the Yarmouth Town Council meeting earlier this week, Councillor Debbie McCleary was unanimously voted in as the town's mayor after serving on the council for 12 years. Taking her position, she said it was very unexpected, adding she would continue to do her best for the good of Yarmouth and Thorley. At the same time, Rodney Corbett announced his resignation from the town council and the position of deputy mayor. He said, "As I turn 80, I believe it is time for me to stand down. I've served the town since I was 18, first as a fireman for 37 years and more than 22 years as a town councillor, town trust member and in many other roles." Councillor McCleary thanked Mr Corbett for all his hard work and said he was a very valued member of the community. Taking over his position as Deputy Mayor, also with unanimous support, was Councillor Jill Head. Councillor Head has been on the Town Council for 6 years, serving the Thorley ward after moving to the island. She had previously served in other local authorities on the mainland. Following a few agitated meetings in the last couple of months with shouting and allegations of bullying and intimidation, councillors hoped the new leadership will move things forward in a positive way.
Newport Nursery vows to fight Ofsted over report. An Isle of Wight nursery labelled inadequate by Ofsted has said it will appeal what it calls a shocking and procedurally inaccurate report. YCMA in Newport claims to have been downgraded from outstanding following a recent visit. Ofsted has told the county press it does not comment on individual inspections until reports are made available online. Having seen the findings of the report before it gets uploaded online, the early years setting based on the site of St Mary's Hospital said it has lodged a complaint. YMCA Fairthorn's chief executive Philippa Spicer claims the inadequate rating has given in response to a specific scenario posed by an inspector. The nursery said the question asked to staff was, "What course of action would you take if you witnessed a member of staff assaulting a child?" Miss Spencer said, "Without exception, all our staff stated that we would first ensure the child was safe and protected by removing the offending member of staff and then calling a local authority designated officer, that's LADO. This is deemed incorrect by the Ofsted inspectors, resulting in the inadequate rating. Not only was our response the correct one, in line with the legislation and our charities policy, the inspector was not able to evidence any legislation to support her position when asked to validate her statement by our nursery manager. We are adamant that the reasons stated by the inspector for this grading are wholly inappropriate and worse, counter to a culture of safeguarding. This is simply not acceptable. We want to reassure the families of those children we look after who put their trust and faith in us and our other stakeholders that we remain committed to always deliver the best and safest care that we can. Ofsted, a non-ministerial government department, is already under scrutiny following the death of Ruth Perry. The head teacher who led Caversham Primary in Reading took her own life following a critical inspection of the school. The government insists the inspections are vital in ensuring a good and safe standard of learning across the UK. The county press will publish Ofsted's response as and when one is received.
Men in court after altercation. 2 people have appeared in court following reports of a fight in Sandown, which saw a knife and imitation firearm seized and left a man with facial injuries. Police were called shortly after 11 p.m. on Friday, April the 28th, to reports of 2 men fighting on the high street. Officers attended and seized an imitation firearm and a kitchen knife. Buses were diverted and the road was closed for a time. A man who sustained injuries to his face was taken to hospital under arrest. He's since been discharged. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary had issued an appeal for witnesses and information. Following inquiries, 58-year-old Gary Thomas Smith of Yavelin Road was charged with causing grievous bodily harm with intent. Damian Piotr Lidensky, 40, of York Road, was charged with possession of an imitation firearm in a public place and possession of a knife in a public place. Both men were remanded in custody and appeared at Southampton Magistrates Court. At the hearing, Smith was bailed with condition to appear at Isle of Wight Crown Court on June the 5th. Ledentshi was bailed with conditions to appear at Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on May the 26th.
Michael Gove to visit the Isle of Wight. The island will host Second Islands Forum this month, chaired by the current Secretary of State, Michael Gove. The Island Forum aims to help level up our island communities by encouraging collaboration to tackle common challenges such as connectivity, infrastructure, demographic trends. It will also allow the government to hear and learn from island communities to inform future policy. The first Islands Forum took place on the Orkney Islands in September 2022. Bob Seeley, Island MP, said, "I am delighted that the Secretary of State is coming to the Isle of Wight, and I am delighted that the island is hosting the second ever Island Forum meeting. The Islands Forum is an opportunity for our island, but also all the UK islands, to explain the challenges we face. I'm sure we will give Michael Gove and all our guests from the UK's wonderful islands a very warm Isle of Wight welcome. The forum will take place on May the 24th and 25th.
Age UK Isle of Wight's Hospital and Dementia Care Navigator Team leader, Kim Williams, was invited to speak at the government's National Dementia Care Conference on Tuesday, April the 25th. The meeting brought together those groups from across the UK which are leading the way in how to improve the provision of dementia care. Age UK IW was asked to showcase a service which acts as a point of access to community-based support, enabling leaders to get the help they need while waiting for their enabling islanders to get the help they need while waiting for their dementia assessment. A team of 3 dementia care navigators who are based in the community, along with a memory service navigator based in St Mary's Hospital, work together to deliver advice, bespoke resources and referrals to patients and their families and carers. The project sees team members visit islanders in their own homes and provides support to clients awaiting a diagnosis who are starting to struggle with their memory. It makes support more easily accessible and helps enhance the quality of life of those being cared for. According to NHS England, over 850,000 people in the UK are living with dementia. Around a further 540,000 people are primary caregivers for people with dementia in the UK. On the island, there are more than 2,600 people over the age of 65 living with dementia, and this number is expected to increase to nearly 4,000 by 2030. According to LSE projections and Alzheimer's Society Local Dementia Profile 2021. The Island's Dementia Care Navigator service was launched by and is funded through the NHS and is delivered in partnership with Age UK IW and the Isle of Wight Council's Adult Social Services. Its success has made it a leader in developing and spearheading joined-up care.
2 rescued tigers arrive at sanctuary. 2 rescued tigers have moved to their forever home on the Isle of Wight. Females Softy and Toff arrived at Sandown's Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary on Thursday, April the 28th. They travelled nearly 2,000 kilometres, having made the trip from a rescue centre in Spain. The 2 tigers have endured tragic lives after being bred in captivity in Italy. In October 2019, they were discovered in small crates outside a suspected circus HQ, just outside Rome, in the back of a horse box. They were starving, dehydrated, injured, and covered in excrement, destined for a Russian zoo. They were later confiscated at the Polish-Belarusian border. On Thursday, via Whitelink ferry, they arrived at their new forever home. Speaking to the county press, Emma Godsall, senior animal care at the sanctuary, said, "They've been nursed back to good health. It's about carrying on and helping them to settle in and rehabilitate. We're just going to encourage as much natural behaviour as possible and give them the best possible life we can." The tigers were due to move in February, but their arrival was delayed due to logistical issues. Onlookers watched as their crates were carefully lowered into the new home, and they were allowed time to come out when they felt comfortable. David, from rescue organisation AAP, which looked after the tigers before they arrived on the island, was there when they were rescued at the Polish-Belarusian border 3.5 years ago. Attending the sanctuary on Thursday, he said, "When they arrived, they had no trust in people whatsoever, so as soon as they saw new faces, they'd go frantic again. Now we are very glad they are back to normal tiger behaviour. If there is any place in the world where they would be accepted, it will be here." David said he would describe Softy as gentle and extremely intelligent, whereas Toff is a little more aggressive due to what she has been through. He said the animals could not reintroduce to the wild because they've lost their natural instincts and could pose a danger.
And following on from that, environmentalist Chris Packham is suing 3 men for libel in the High Court this week over denied allegations he misled the public into donating to Sandown's Wild Heart Trust charity. The trial started on Tuesday and is expected to run into next week. The TV naturalist is suing over 9 articles which included claims he defrauded and manipulated people into donating to the charity to rescue tigers while knowing the animals were well looked after. Mr Packham is also accused of dishonestly raising money for the charity at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic while knowing it was due to receive £500,000 benefit from its insurance. The strongly denied allegations, repeated in several tweets and videos, relate to Mr Packham's involvement with the Wild Heart Trust, which runs the Wild Heart Sanctuary. Dominic Whiteman, editor of the online site Country Squire magazine, is defending the libel claim, along with writer Nigel Bean and a third man, Paul Reed. Lawyers for Mr Whiteman and Mr Bean said the articles in the claim could be defended as true, while Mr Reed said he was not responsible as he was a mere proofreader. The BBC Spring Watch presenter began his evidence and said he was a victim of a campaign of vile and relentless intimidation. Mr Packham said his deeply held views have attracted criticism from people who shoot and fox hunt. The environmentalist said he has random dead animals and human feces regularly posted to him. The 61-year-old said he fears for his and his family's security. He said, "I go to walk my dogs in the woods and wonder is today the day a psychopath fueled by all this hate turns up and kills me. I genuinely no longer expect to live a long life free from violence and intimidation." He denied fraudulently raising money for the charity, adding, "We weren't hopeful that we would be insured against COVID-19 closures. The insurance payments ultimately saved the sanctuary in a time of dire need. But to be very clear, if we had not launched the fundraising appeal as rapidly as we did, then these payments may have arrived too late to make a difference."
Water tankers have returned. After being stood down after the Easter holidays, the southern water tankers were back in Shanklin this week. Temporary traffic lights were needed on Church Road, while the tankers were again in situ. When the first... I'm sorry, I've... Water tankers have returned. After being stood down after the Easter holidays, southern water tankers were back in Shanklin this week. Temporary traffic lights were needed on Church Road, while the tankers were again in situ. When they first appeared, in early April, Southern Water told the county press they were needed due to an influx of tourists putting pressure on the water network. We went back to Southern Water with further questions. A spokesperson said, "These tankers were originally deployed to assist with the extra demand, while some local storage reservoirs were out for cleaning over the Easter holiday, where we would expect to have a high demand due to holidaymakers. We're expecting the reservoir to be returned to service by May the 22nd. These tankers are part of a new fleet which we can use to keep pressure up in the event of localised high demand during a burst or when our network might need additional support." Southern Water said the tankers were only being used for a few hours a day, were new vehicles and meet emission standards. However, other vehicles are having to slow and stop along the road due to the traffic light.
2 women received important honours for their work in horticulture at the AGM of the Ventnor Botanic Garden Friends Society. For both it was a delight and for one a total surprise. The Harold Hillier Award is given annually to somebody for their outstanding contribution to horticulture on the Isle of Wight. This year's recipient was Jenny Fradgley, who taught horticulture at the Isle of Wight College for 30 years and has organised the National Garden Scheme garden openings on the island for 15 years. Invited by Sally Peake of VBGFS to talk about his work with Jenny, Rob Mew of the Isle of Wight College began by praising Sally for the success of the VBG apprenticeship scheme she initiated as Education Officer for Friends. The apprentices were successful, the list of which has won a place on the Kew Gardens diploma. Another worked at Highgrove and another is at RHS Garden Wisley. Jenny was praised for her work at the college, teaching all manner of young people, older people, those with mental health problems and physical disabilities, teaching full-time on campus while working with young people, YTS training scheme, and going to prison 4 times a week at Parkhurst and Albany. A new award was announced, the RHS Recognition Certificate, for affiliated horticultural organisations to award to somebody who has gone the extra mile. To her surprise, this went to Sally. Her fundraising ideas included exhibitions, soirees, parties, garden visits and interesting speakers. Jenny said it was Sally who, on hearing Tesco were awarding grants to local organisations with their scheme to reduce the use of plastic bags, secured £10,000 for VBG's Hop Yard. Her idea to fund a horticultural apprentice was her most outstanding contribution, using charitable status to ask for gift aid.
Helping older residents online. Age UK and students from the Isle of Wight College are working together to support older people to get online by offering the digital support workshops. During lockdown, getting online became increasingly important, with vital services becoming exclusively digital. This resulted in a significant digital divide, with many older people left behind. Older people are buddied up with college students to develop their successful skills and confidence in using laptops, tablets and smartphones. Students have been showing great patience and understanding, and older people have benefited from their expertise in learning how to set up new devices, send and receive emails, reset passwords, download files, use apps, scam awareness, social media, searching Google, and much more. One older person who came to a session said, "I feel less worried and vulnerable. If I run into trouble, I know where to start looking for help. I have learned very small things that have been incredibly helpful. There have already been several successful sessions with the next session at the college coming on Monday, May the 15th. To find out more about Age UK's digital service or to book your place on the support session, call Age UK on 01983 301 693 or email digital@ageukiw.org.uk.
A town council clerk has resigned after 13 years in the job as he says allegations of bullying have been ignored for more than 6 months. It is alleged 2 women, one of them not a member of Ventnor Town Council, had been bullied by a still-serving councillor. David Bartlett said in his resignation letter to the Mayor, Steph Tugard, it was an incredible privilege to work for the remarkable town, but he could no longer work for a council that has, and still does, ignore the bullying allegations. Formal complaints against the councillor had been raised with the Isle of Wight Council's monitoring officer, but he decided not to act on them. It was said in the recent town council meeting. At the meeting, the matter was brought to light by former Deputy Mayor David George, who had seen a copy of Mr Bartlett's resignation letter. He said, I think something very unpleasant has happened in this council. Someone stands accused of bullying 2 women and they remain a councillor. This issue casts a long shadow while it remains unresolved. This is a serious democratic issue if you are allowing this to continue. Mayor Tugard responded by saying the monitoring officer has said it was fiscally unviable to look into the complaints. Speaking after the meeting, Councillor Steve Cooper, chair of the Town Council's HR committee, said they would take any bullying allegation seriously, but it is a complex area to manage as some may perceive actions as bullying and others don't. He said nothing nasty has occurred other than the normal issues an organisation inevitably encounters when dealing and interacting with others. Councillor Cooper said VTC had addressed the issue by speaking with each councillor about how behaviour can be misinterpreted. He said bullying, intimidation, undermining or belittling would not be tolerated. The Town Council unanimously agreed to sign the National Association of Local Council Civility and Respect Pledge.
This is an article by Laurie Little, and it says, signs showing that people must keep dogs on leads could be coming for the causeway in Freshwater after 2 swans died after being attacked by a loose dog. Some residents have requested the area becomes one in which dogs must be kept on leads. A couple of people wrote to the county press to say they were struggling to get answers from the local authority about how to go about doing this. The county press asked the Isle of Wight Council what the situation was. An Isle of Wight Council spokesperson said, ensuring the well-being of people along with animals will always be given proper consideration, so it is wrong to say that the council aren't interested. This will be treated as a public space protection order request, which can cover dogs on leads. These orders are due for review later this year. This starts with the recommendations to members and, if agreed, then go out to formal consultation on the proposals. The results of the consultation will determine whether we introduce new regulations or not. Any changes must be based on evidence of public nuisance. This incident will be reported as such. Until then, we ask all users of open spaces to respect each other and local wildlife. Meanwhile, the police have confirmed that the inquiries are ongoing in the search for 2 people and a dog seen at the time of the swan attack. No arrests or charges have been made. One local resident told the county press, I, and many others, are incensed that yet again some irresponsible dog owners do not control or train their pet, thinking it will not harm other creatures. Shame on the guilty owners who slunk off, leaving someone else to take the dying one to a vet. I wrote a letter to County Press a few years ago about a similar fatal accident, pleading that dog owners put their animal on a lead around the causeway. Until someone has the guts to do something constructive, this will happen again and again. Another local resident has offered to pay for the signs if necessary.
Drivers are being told to look out for QR code parking payment scams after some motorists were left out of pocket. The Isle of Wight Council has been checking meters for fake QR stickers on car park machines. It comes after a number of people on the island recently fell victim. A warning was issued over a similar scam last year. It appears to have surfaced again. The County Press has been told a holiday maker was taken to a scam website when scanning a QR code on a machine at Bondchurch Landslip car park. Scammers took £47.99 out of his bank account. The council confirmed it hasn't heard of any recent reports of the scam, but has asked parking attendants to check machines as a precaution. It added the pay-by-phone system does not use QR codes. A similar incident also occurred in the car park at Ryde St John's train station. A woman scanning a QR code on a parking machine had a similar amount of money taken out of her account. It appears the fake QR code has since been removed, but islanders are reminded to be vigilant.
A huge turnout for Randonee. A staggering 3,000 cyclists registered for the Isle of Wight Randonee this year. In the wake of another successful event, organisers were keen to thank each participant for their generous donations, both online and at various checkpoints. Free to enter, the family-friendly event was held on Sunday, April 30th between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. and followed the round the island cycle routes in a clockwise direction. Checkpoints could be found in Bembridge, Wootton, East Cowes, Yarmouth and Ventnor. Participants had the choice of taking on either a 100-kilometre or a 55-kilometre ride. It's only through the donations and badge sales that we can maintain the Randonee in its current form, and more importantly support local charities, said a spokesperson for the event. We'd like to thank the local community for their support, the businesses, schools and villages that let us use their premises, and the schools that provide feed stations for participants. The Randonee was established by the wayfarers in 1985 and uniquely follows a route around the whole of the Isle of Wight, accommodating minor roads and lanes where possible, enabling riders to take in and enjoy some of the best scenery the island has to offer. In 2013, the route was changed to a clockwise direction, predominantly to alleviate congestion on the Cowes floating bridge.
Steps leading to a popular Isle of Wight beach at the Needles are reopened once again. The Isle of Wight Council repairs have been carried out following safety fears. Due to erosion, one set of steps and a landing near the beach had dropped and there was not sufficient support underneath. When they were shut last month, the only route to the beach was via a pay-to-use chairlift. The closure led to the owner of the Needles Pleasure Cruises fearing the cost implications to his business. Now the steps are officially open again. It means those visiting can access the beach via the steps or the chairlift.
The best Easter camp ever for Scouts. Awesome adventures, amazing friends, a fantastic weekend and the best camp ever were among the reviews after a weekend of Easter fun. From as far afield as Liverpool, Wales and the Isle of Man, 550 scouts and guides aged 14 to 25 marked the weekend with an animal-themed camp. Activities included rib rides, fencing, tree climbing and laser combat. All the participants visited the Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary, where they made treats for the animals. They also learned to play the ukulele and added a workshop on magic. First Shanklin Scout Group's Carol Harvey said, "Our tried and tested formula of fun, friendship and activities across the weekend was another success for Island Scouting. We're very grateful to the organisation that supported us and all the adult volunteers who make the weekend possible. We're already looking forward to our 30th anniversary camp in 2024. Dave Simpson, County Commissioner for Isle of Wight Scouts, said, "This dedicated team of adult volunteers has once again produced a very exciting and entertaining event for young people. The organisation is always looking for more volunteers. Sign up for scouts.org.uk/join or visit Facebook page at Isle of Wight Scouts for more." Celebrating in 1953 and 1937. In 1953, the Isle of Wight was decked out with bunting for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, and celebrity events from Bembridge to Bonchurch and from Knighton to Newchurch were reported in the county press. The May 30 edition detailed a children's fancy dress parade through Bembridge and a live broadcast of the service in the parish church. Brading hosted a bonfire on Nunmore Down after villagers paraded with the bull ring. There were fireworks in Chillerton and Gatcombe, while coronation balls at Northwood House and East Cowes Town Hall followed the distribution of souvenirs. In Carisbrooke, there was dancing at the Eight Bells pub in Yarmouth. The crews of the HMS Plover were inspected before dancing on the quay. Credited to P. Adshead, a photo followed the cast of Cinderella, which was performed as a puppet play at Gatton Lake School. At Whippingham School, a children's pageant saw Queen Elizabeth and her attendants dress the part to mark the big day. Meanwhile, the Newport Amateur Musical and Dramatic Society staged a coronation version of the musical comedy Me and My Girl at Medina Theatre, starring Charles Dunford and May Mackenzie. The following week, the county press reported, "In Ventnor, every business house has its own special decoration, in which pictures of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh predominated, and there were very few private houses without flags. Children's tea parties were held in Ocean View and Steep Hill Downs Road."
At Whitwell, Ventnor Jazz Band entertained. On August the 15th, 1953, Michael Mason appeared in a photo in the county press at the evening of Newport Carnival, which saw kings and queens at the forefront of the procession. He said in those days the square was used as the main bus terminus, but on this day it was closed to all traffic. A loudspeaker had been set up in the square to provide dance music for anyone who wished to trip the light fantastic. I was one of those dancers, and you can see me as a 10-year-old in a very tight clinch with my mystery good friend Richard Brimson. Earlier that day I had managed to get a nasty blister on my left foot. Bound in a white-coloured handkerchief, I was able to perform, and you can clearly see the impoverished bandage on the boy with his back to the camera in the foreground to the right of the picture. When this picture appeared in your newspaper, I pointed this out to my mother, who for some reason sent off for a copy. For some other inexplicable reason, I've still retained it to this day.
Bridges over the Yar in days gone by. What do you know about bridges that have spanned the River Yar? A new display has been put together at West White Heritage Centre by the Freshwater and Totland Archive Group in collaboration with the Yarmouth Town Trust. Before a bridge was built across the mouth of the River Yar in 1860, the only means of crossing was by ferry boat. These ferry boats were small rowing boats, and passengers could have a long wait in all weathers for a boatman to become available to take them between Yarmouth and Freshwater. The alternative was a 4 to 6 mile journey, often on foot, along the narrow lanes to Thorley, Wilmingham, Afton, and then to the causeway at Freshwater, which was the nearest crossing point by land. In 1857, some influential gentlemen formed a company, the Yar Bridge Company, with the aim of building a toll bridge and approach roads on raised embankments across the Yar between Norton in the west and Yarmouth in the east. This bridge was a drawbridge in design and was officially opened in April 1860. It greatly eased the journey between the two parishes, and much development subsequently occurred in the area as a result. In 1926, a swing bridge was built, replacing the original drawbridge.
The Isle of Wight County Council purchased the bridge from the Yar Bridge Company in 1933, and it was freed of tolls the following year. This bridge was wide enough for traffic in one direction only, and traffic was controlled by the Isle of Wight's first set of permanent traffic lights, which were installed in 1935. The increase in traffic and weight of coaches and lorries meant that a new swing bridge had to be built in 1987, and this is the bridge in use today. The display shows drawings and engravings of people crossing the river in small boats in the early 19th century, before the first bridge was built, and photographs and information on the three bridges built in 1860, 1926 and 1987. The exhibition will be in place until the end of June.
Isle of Wight connections and mingling with the showbiz stars. In February 2018, Melvin Hayes and John Hannam took the stage at the renowned Pictures Film Festival in Rickmansworth, Hertfordshire, organised by Taking Pictures TV. Since 2015, Talking Pictures creator Noel Cronin has been running the huge popular satellite channel, which reunites its audience with classic film and television, and I was delighted to attend the annual television festival this year. The Isle of Wight connections continued with screenplay of a 1930s documentary on the Island Railway. With no music or narration, this standalone short film captures life on the island almost 90 years ago. The film was of its time, and poor camera quality proved difficult to decipher the exact locations in question. But the shots of Sandown seafront made me realise how little the area had changed in almost a century. While certain things looked the same, at 35 I have no recollection of the island-wide network service, and therefore have never seen the island as having a rail service. For more information on this film and similar archive material, visit the Talking Pictures website, where you'll find contact information for the film archive. Beyond the Wight connections, my highlight of the weekend was when my hero, Sir Michael Perkinson, stepped out to a packed theatre alongside his son as he celebrated his legendary chat show.
The 88-year-old broadcasting legend looked frail as he made his entrance, following a flattering introduction from host Mike Reed. As the conversation began, his insightful, analytical tone returned, with the stage presence to rival any guest. Revisiting moments which form part of the fabric of popular culture was emotional for the talk show guest, who has spent the past few years touring the country with his live conversational show. As the curtain fell, Parkinson took a bow in front of a standing ovation, which provided the festival with an emotional moment. I'd already arranged to interview icon Susan Hampshire, but hoped for more. This was aided by my good friend, comedy writer Colin Edmonds, who, after persuasion, agreed to pose questions to Susan on my behalf. As the host of the podcast Behind the Scenes, Colin and I have since enjoyed a banterous relationship, so it provided amusement when he found himself presenting my own podcast Beyond the Title. Having cerebral palsy, I type with my nose on an iPad, which is a robust system until I'm required to do something urgently and am unable to locate a suitable surface. When Bonnie Langford accepted my invitation for a short interview, I had no time to prepare, testing my journalism like never before. It seemed pertinent my debut entertainment column should feature the late, great John Hannam, whose absence is still felt throughout the whole showbiz fraternity. If I can just have a tenth of his success and reputation in local media, I'll be doing something right. And that was the opinion of Josh Barry. What's on the island? What events? Shanklin Theatre, May, Thursdays in May, 8:15 p.m, Beyond the West End. And Saturday 6th of May, Genesis Connected. Sunday the 7th of May, 7:30, Francis Rossi. Friday the 12th of May, 8 p.m, is Chris McCausland. Saturday the 13th of May at 7:30 p.m, Women in Rock. Friday the 19th of May at 7:30, June Field. Saturday 20th of May, 7:30, Go Your Own Way. And Saturday the 27th of May at 7:30 is ABBA Reunion.
For the 19th to the 27th of May is Labour of Love. And traditional tales tell us Tony Monty Hurst will be storytelling at two venues next week. Wednesday, May the 10th, he will be telling stories about powerful women, and The Girl Played On will start at 7 p.m. at the Athanar in Ventnor. Tickets costing £4 are available from 07405 346 388. The following day he will be performing traditional Irish tales and legends at Babushka Books, Shanklin, from 7 p.m. Tickets are £5, including refreshments from the venue, or call 07511 220038.
And at the Riverside Centre in Newport on Thursday the 11th of May at 2:30 p.m. there's a talk about the last hours of the RMS Titanic. We have a letter here from Ian Pratt of Ryde. Habitat destruction is serious, dear editor. They won't die, they won't despair, they will just move. This comment about the curlews on the West Acre development, Isle of Wight Observer, April 28th, shows crass ignorance about the natural world. Habitat destruction is a major cause of the catastrophic decline in many of our birds, butterflies and flowers. Local politicians need to be educated about these issues as a matter of urgency.
Time for Ryde to get sewage plant. And this is from Paul Martin of Ryde, a retired engineer. Well done to Ryde South East Councillor Warren Drew, quoted in last week's county press. That's the 21st of the 4th, 23, who warned that those behind the controversial Penny Feathers housing scheme need to talk to residents first before it gets approval. The scheme will mean 900 new houses to the south of Ryde, and one question I'd urgently like answered is what about the sewage? It's my belief that the town's overloaded sewers must be upgraded with an effective treatment system. With the weather improving, more visitors will want to splash around in the sea. Another reason why planners and water company experts must work together and get this problem sorted. Currently, much sewage is pumped through the pipe all the way from Ryde to a Sandown treatment works. This might have been okay in the days before huge populations, but today it's just not satisfactory. I'm personally aware of several potential sites locally for sewage treatment, all in open spaces well away from the residential areas. It will require 2 large lagoons with sedimentation tanks and oxygenation pumps. This might help prevent sewage from getting into tourist bathing areas. I described in a letter published by the County Press last year, on the 17th of January 22, has time come to Ryde to have its own treatment works? How I was with a small group of Ryde residents who met and spoke informally with a sewage treatment expert sent to Apley to help diagnose and repair a leak. He informed us the pipe dealing with the wastewater was only just managing to deal with the greatly increased volume of sewage. He felt that, in his opinion, the system will be overwhelmed within 2 years. Surely it's time for Ryde, having the largest population on the Isle of Wight, to have its own sewage plant.
And now a letter from Carl Hunter of Shanklin. Accounts show Whitelink could offer a better deal. Earlier this year I looked through Whitelink's latest set of published accounts for 2021 and 2022. I wanted to know the truth behind Keith Greenfield's, CEO of Whitelink, mid-2021 claim that, without taxpayer subsidy, the full cost of ferry services will be borne by Whitelink customers through ticket prices, and the narrative that unless Whitelink secured financial emergency support, the firm risked bankruptcy. The government handouts to Whitelink totalled £6.4 million in 2021, with a further £894,000 in 2022. Prior to this, the accounts from 2017 to 19 showed Whitelink made net profits of over £50 million. So why would a company that made £50 million pure profit over the previous 3 years need to take public money? Looking into those years revealed that over 90% of that profit was payout as dividends, apportioned between Area Shipping, Whitelink's parent company, and Whitelink directors. However, it's only Whitelink's latest published accounts, 21 to 22, that would reveal the accuracy behind Mr. Greenfield's claim. Firstly, it's important to note that Whitelink is not a public limited company, meaning the public cannot own shares. It's a private limited company, and so shares are owned by directors and the parent company, Area Shipping. In 2021, Whitelink received a £9,387 million insurance payout for the reduction in revenue caused by the COVID crisis. This negated the need to claim against the taxpayer and take the public's money. Barely a year later, in June 2022, after Whitelink received that huge sum from the government, they paid themselves £8 million in dividends. The obvious question is, why take taxpayers' money if you can afford to give yourself £8 million from profits, especially given they didn't maintain the services and took so long to return them? What's more, Whitelink waited until the 2022 accounts were closed off before declaring they paid themselves £8 million in dividends. Therefore, you won't see this sum entered on the balance sheet for 2022. Instead, it is listed as the last entry on their financial statement that simply states, in June 2022, the company declared a dividend of £8 million. If on one hand you're pleading poverty and taking huge sums of public money, but on the other hand paying £8 million in dividends, it looks like taxpayers' money has subsided dividend payments when it should have gone to maintaining services. The reality is, if you can afford to pay yourselves £8 million so soon after receiving public money, you didn't need the public money. This is especially true if one considers that since 2017, Whitelink has made £77 million net profit. Furthermore, Whitelink's accounts are extremely complicated with parent companies, so ultimately, outside the director's allocation, it's hard to trace whose pockets the remaining dividends finally fall in. There remains one last shocking but not surprising truth. Having looked through Whitelink's published accounts dating back to 2017, I discovered Whitelink has effectively paid no tax. Over the last 6 years, Whitelink appeared to have received a further £2.2 million of the public's money. Since 2017, Whitelink has paid £4,625,000 in tax, with tax rebates of £6,822,000. The account shows Whitelink can afford to offer islanders a much better deal, and with average net profits of nearly £247,000 per week for the last 6 years, it certainly does not need to be subsidised by the taxpayer. In light of all this, I have written to the Department of Transport asking what criteria need to be met to make a closer look at Whitelink's accounts.
Shot in the dark. This is from Vanessa Mileman of Rochford, Essex. Having holidayed for many years during the 1980s on the Isle of Wight, I often read the online county press. It was while reading tonight that I was reminded of a holiday with my then boyfriend in Sandown. It was around 1987-88, and waking up the morning after a night out, I realised I had lost my silver charm bracelet. I was so upset at the time. We spent hours retracing our steps. We went to the nightclub and spoke to the cleaner to ask if they had found it and reported it to the local police. It wasn't the monetary value, but the fact that it had a special sixpence that wasn't even silver attached to it. The sixpence was found by my grandmother the day I was born, and she gave it to me on my 18th birthday. It was irreplaceable. I know it is a long shot, but I was wondering if you could possibly print my story and perhaps someone somewhere may have my bracelet. It could have been found months later, or someone picked it up and put it in a drawer and forgot about it. I would love to find it again. By the way, the boyfriend who spent hours looking for it with me, we have been married 32 years this year. At least I didn't lose him.
Thanks to the clerk, Claire Grant of Ventnor. I would like to personally pay tribute to Dave Bartlett, who has been our town clerk in Ventnor for 13 years. Despite his home being elsewhere, he originally took the appointment on a temporary basis. His team, with Alison Killick, Tony McCarthy and others elected, past and present, have worked hard on our behalf. Financial demands on towns and cities are infinite, with tough decisions having to be made, services trimmed or cut altogether. How often have I heard "they should do this or that" in my long adult life, spoken by grumblers who seldom take part in community life, may not even use their vote. However, as Dave Bartlett has found, we have lots of generous folk who give their time, cash and expertise, which in his words make Ventnor such a remarkable coastal town.
Asleep at the helm. This is a letter from Derek Isaacs of Yarmouth. Dear Editor, Councillor and former Mayor of Yarmouth, Steve Cowley, is loud in his condemnation of both West Wight Councillor Peter Spink and MP Bob Seeley concerning the Yarmouth school site. But his own record is lamentable. The likelihood of the school being used became apparent in 2019. Councillor Cowley was mayor at the time, and Yarmouth Town Council supported a parents' action group in an attempt to prevent the closure. They were unsuccessful. During the 3 years which elapsed between the County Council's decision to close the school and the first public meeting held in Yarmouth on December 6, 2022, at which it was disclosed that the site was to be sold, the Yarmouth Town Council apparently raised no concerns whatsoever as to the future of the site. Councillor Cowley was mayor throughout this period. His public criticisms of Councillor Spink and Bob Seeley do not deceive Yarmouth residents. Steve Cowley was asleep at Yarmouth's helm between the summer of 2019 and the autumn of 2022, and now blames others for the present situation.
And now it's goodbye from Pauline.
And it's bye-bye from Mike. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. So many forms of creativity depend heavily on the visual. So to find one where touch is at least equally important can be a joy.
I think certainly with faces and heads, my vision of what people look like has changed, because I'm so now aware of the shape of a nose in relation to the top lip, because I'm moulding this in front of me.
Well, we'll be talking to the blind man whose retirement has been enriched by a new hobby, clay modelling. And certainly so much of life is illustrated by visual images, not least the event which is going to be dominating the headlines for the next week. I'm talking, of course, about the coronation. But how much of its appeal will be dependent on its powerful visual imagery? Well, our reporter Fern Lulham has been to a school in Kent where children with both visual and additional disabilities are being given the chance to feel what their sighted counterparts can see.
This is the sound of a group of visually impaired children at Valence School in Kent eagerly unwrapping some gifts from the charity Living Paintings. And if you, like me, have ever felt left out in conversations surrounding a big event because you literally couldn't see what all the fuss was about, you might just understand their excitement. I spoke to communications manager at Living Paintings, Nick Ford, to find out a bit more about the charity and the services it provides.
Living Paintings helps to bring the visual world to life for blind and visually impaired children and young people. We're most famous for our tactile audio adaptions of children's picture books, which really help children get to grips with the illustrations in a page by feeling every lump and bump of the original illustrations and listening to an audio guide that helps guide those little fingers over them so they can start to see through touch.
Francesca, here's one for you. It's just in front of you. Good girl. Is it Christmas or what? It's going to feel like Christmas. It's a Christmas coronation.
We came back after our Christmas break as a charity, and invariably we moved on to the topic of the biggest event of the year, which is obviously the coronation. And just like anybody else, we were sitting around a table sort of talking about what might happen, what crowns might be used on the day, what the ceremony would look like, who would and who wouldn't get an invite, obviously. And then, our initial excitement really, really quickly waned when we realized everything that we were talking about was about visual elements. That moment happened to us and we were like, actually, the coronation is such a visual thing. And what can we do to help and to make this more accessible, especially for blind children, because this will be such an exciting moment for all children.
Somebody who wears a crown.
King Charles.
King Charles. What's happening?
Coronation.
Well done, Benji. Yeah, this coronation is coming up. So they've made some presents for you guys. Okay?
Oh, thanks.
Okay, do you guys want to open up and have a look and see what's inside your box?
That nurturing voice belongs to Megan Miller. She's a primary class teacher at Valence School. I asked Megan how useful tactile and audio resources are when teaching visually impaired children.
I mean, there's a number of words. Fundamental, completely helpful. One of the things that I've recently discovered through my training is that children and young people with a VI don't necessarily develop the incidental skills that children without a VI or vision impairment would develop. For a lot of children with a VI, their experience is what they can touch within their reach. And if they can't reach it, they don't know it's there and they can't experience it. Having an audio description is great, but being actually able to feel the shape of something kind of helps them build those pictures in their minds and then grasp the concepts a bit better.
How do you find it when something like this happens if you can't see it very well?
Hard.
Hard.
What we've done with this project is we've taken key elements from the coronation itself, so the St Edward's crown, and then the profile portrait of King Charles as shown on the first class stamp, and turned those into beautiful tactile versions that children can keep forever. And each one of those comes with a bespoke audio guide. We've included all types of schools. We have a lot of mainstream schools involved in the project, homes around the country, teachers, parents, carers, youngsters. I think by the end of this week, we will have reached about 7,500 blind children and young people. They're able to participate and feel involved in that visual spectacle by combining the elements of touch and sound together.
I know you're curious, so here's a little taster of what those audio clips sound like. This one describes the crown and has been voiced by none other than Dame Joanna Lumley.
Adorning the crown are 444 precious and semi-precious stones and nearly 2 kilograms of solid gold. The colourful and sparkling stones include rubies, amethysts, sapphires, topazes, tourmalines, and a garnet.
That's a nose. Look, you've got your finger on King Charles's nose.
If you're a teacher who has a visually impaired child, there's loads of things we can do, from kind of seeking out audio descriptions of things and making sure that we've got all of those resources. You know, for instance, like football occasions or sporting events, making sure that they have something that they can touch there with them, you know, bring some equipment in from the sports and stuff to really help them gain an understanding of how that might look visually when those sporting events are being played. Seeking out small charities, because they're often the people that are doing the legwork that other people aren't thinking about.
What do you think the king looks like now when you've felt that picture of him?
Old.
Yeah, possibly.
Being included isn't about being in a room with other people. It's about having everything you need to be a part of that community. Coronations is not something you see in a lifetime. This is quite a momentous occasion, and for them to be able to be a part of that, it means that they're a part of the community, and it reduces that isolation, it reduces the social anxiety, and just helps so much with confidence, and it gives them that independence to make their own choices.
You'd like to hear the horses?
Yeah.
Do you think that will help you enjoy the coronation if you hear the horses?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big animal lover as well. Anyone else having a party?
I'm going up London to watch it.
You're going to London?
They're definitely going to be there for 9 hours.
You think you're going to be there for 9 hours? Do you think it will be worth the wait?
Yeah.
Yeah, good, okay. As a visually impaired adult, I wouldn't mind having some of these things myself.
But the great news is you can. So Living Paintings was always founded on supporting blind people of all ages. That isn't going to change. Our free postal library of tactile audio resources, there's something there for everybody to be able to explore their interests. But what we have found in our kind of strategic overview is actually we have the greatest opportunity to make impact by reaching people when they're very, very young.
It's those moments where you see their face light up, or you see them getting something. Like, you can talk about something and you can say, this is this, and then you give them something tactile, and all of a sudden they go, oh, right, yeah, that makes sense. And it's just brilliant. It's great that they can have those opportunities.
Well, it sounded to me as though this experience had really allowed these children to put their finger on what the coronation might look like. Benji, for one, certainly had a clear idea of what he was going to do to celebrate.
Do you have plans?
Champagne.
That's my boy. Fern Lulham reporting from Valence School in Westerham in Kent. Now, Alan Maybert has led a busy working and social life. He was one of the first blind rehabilitation workers, teaching newly blind people the skills they'd need to cope. He was a sportsman. In fact, he was one of the early visually impaired Paralympians. And as if that wasn't enough, he was London's first blind magistrate. So hardly surprising then that once he'd retired, he was still looking for enjoyable and rewarding ways to fill his time. And he certainly seems to have found it, as I discovered the other day when I joined him at his clay modelling class in Buckhurst Hill in Essex, alongside his teacher, Esther Neslin. And in fact, I ended up getting a lesson myself.
This is what you want to make.
Oh, that's a nice little bowl.
So you make a round ball with your thumbs, pushing outwards, so you're creating a wall. the same thickness on the outside.
Yeah.
Where's Esther?
I'm just here. It's lovely seeing you teaching, Alan. That's porcelain, what you're playing with. Which
Porcelain is very advanced clay to work with.
Yeah, see, 10 minutes and I'm into the sophisticated stuff.
I was looking for a hobby that I'd never really tried before, apart from dabbling in the pottery room at the blind school about 50 years ago now, maybe even longer. One of the wonderful things about working with clay, it is very forgiving. So if you make a mistake, it's not easy, but you can make a correction.
I can remember working with it like you at school, but unlike you, I've not gone back to it. So you can perhaps try and persuade me today.
Well, I hope I'm going to persuade quite a few of your listeners, actually, because I think it's by far the most suitable art form for blind people. It's very tactile by nature. I use my visual memory for the pieces I produce. Most of the fully sighted members in the group use either pictures or diagrams, but if I can't find a 3D model, I tend to use my visual memory, and also inspired by the work of others in the group that are around the shelves, and I always explore that and get inspiration.
What are you having a feel of there, Alan?
The scale of it is so big. I love the tactile nature of it. It's all going off at all different angles, isn't it? The person who did this sits next to me normally, and it's her first attempt. I don't know what glaze she's going to do that with, but it's really lovely.
Just explain the process a bit, because of course it's not just about bending clay around.
The process is mainly in 3 stages. You're modelling your piece that you want to create. It's then dried out. It's fired, biscuit fired for the first time, so it survives the kiln. If that comes out in one piece, then it's glazed. Then it's fired again for the second time. I think glazing is the only aspect of that process that I need tutor assistance. You're either dipping something into a sort of bucket of glaze by using tongs, or painting glaze on with a brush, which obviously has its own difficulty, or spraying with a gun. And I've not even attempted that.
But what about the firing? And actually, that sounds potentially kind of, not dangerous. How does that work?
For everyone, for all the members of the group, the firing is done by the tutors. Esther, who I must say, without Esther's open-mindedness, I don't think this would have worked. I mean, she's not just a professional sculptor. She's a very good conveyor of skill and knowledge.
There are some nice things that you can do with dark shades and textures.
But the most important thing was for the tutor to have an open mind about having a blind person in the group and integrated into the group with just minimal amount of adjustments, really.
Before I met Alan, one of the managers came downstairs and said, "Do you think this is appropriate? And do you think it will be safe?" I was quite surprised, actually, that they'd said, "Do you think it will be safe?" Because it seems like such an obvious thing to do, actually. Probably the riskiest thing for Alan is getting down the stairs to the glazing area, because they're pretty risky, the stairs going down to the glazing area.
So nothing to do with the pottery at all, really?
Not at all. When Alan first joined, I didn't teach using the wheel because I didn't throw at all. About 1.5 years ago, I taught myself to throw on a wheel. And I very much had Alan in mind when I did that. And most of the time when I'm throwing, I keep my eyes closed. So it's very much to do with your other senses and not necessarily to do with your sight.
So what was your approach to teaching Alan?
My approach was not that dissimilar to what I do with everyone else, because I don't have a project that I say, we are going to do this and this is how we are going to do this. It's very much student-centred. So I was interested in what had drawn Alan towards this material and what kind of things he wanted to create. Everybody has their own style and everybody produces work which is very different. Yeah. But I love the whole kind of tactile, streamlined work that he's produced.
I've done a few heads, and it's a bigotry to do green man if you're a sculptor. So I've done 2 or 3 green men that are in my garden at home, but I have one piece here that you can explore. I did a series of British wildlife, and that's one of the animals regarded as, very British wildlife. So I don't know if you can identify that.
Well, I'm not sure that I can. It looks like it's lying down.
Yes, it is lying down.
It's lying down. It's got, It's not a rabbit, is it?
No.
It's got pointed ears. Well, straight up ears. A fox?
Yes.
Yo!
I could never see fully, and I could never see enough detail whenever I saw a depiction of a fox to know the detail of its face. Yeah. But I was exploring a piece of sculpture, which was a head of a fox, in a ceramic shop the other day, and I felt these wires coming out from the mouth, and then found out that foxes have whiskers.
So really it's helped your overall knowledge, perhaps, of anatomy?
Absolutely. I have learnt so much about the human face. I mean, we can put in all the aspects we know of the face. So many different types of noses, eyes, mouth. And the most challenging part for me is to give the face an expression. Because you can't hear a smile, can you? You can't hear a grimace. It's very subtle, you know, and this is where the group and Esther are so good. They are critical friends, really.
Well, I've only just spotted it, and I know that you were thinking about doing something, something like that, weren't you?
Well, that's the sort of shape I wanted.
I know. Alan is a fantastic member of our group, so we've all been together now for quite a long time. We're very sociable. In the middle of the lesson, we have tea and cake, and Alan does a quiz. I admire the way Alan is interested in what everybody else is doing. We all like to share what we're doing, and he feels everything. We describe everything. He goes on the wheel. I mean, it's technically so difficult. So, yeah, he's a much-loved member of this group, which he's probably told you is called the Crackpots.
Alan is great. To be honest, he's the first blind person I've ever actually met. You do wonder beforehand, how is he going to cope doing with a process that most people would assume you have to be able to see to form. But he does marvellously well. I mean, Esther's very helpful and giving the advice, and we all give our opinions as well. But no, he's very creative, and it's all in his head, I guess. I mean, it starts off being in our head as well, but we have the benefit of being able to translate it by what we see, and he still has to keep it all in his head and in his feel.
How good do you think you could get at this?
Oh, that's all relative, isn't it? Yeah, I think someone once said, you don't see what you create, it's for others to see what you create. So that suits me fine. I find it very relaxing. I wish I found it while I was at work. And the thing I like about this is that most of the skills as a blind person, you know, going back school days to your adolescence, to qualification, to finding a job, are survival skills or skills that you have to do. Yeah. With this hobby, it's totally relaxing. You know, there's days that I come in and I just need to touch clay. You know, people have liked some work more than others. I did do a mermaid once. The fish part was fine and very identifiable. The top half was more Arnold Schwarzenegger than a classic beauty. You know, I've got a really open mind. At my age, I think I'm looking for the enjoyment that it gives me. And if someone else is aesthetically pleased by it, it's a bonus.
I think a lot of people, when they have more time, when they retire, kind of gravitate towards more creative things that they wish that they'd done in the past. It gives you more confidence. You are more prepared to take risks and make mistakes and enjoy it more, rather than feeling that you have something that you have to prove yourself at. And that helps to improve the artwork that you make.
I'm not unhappy with that bowl.
Yeah, for 5 minutes work, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Perhaps I'll take this up. And in fact, a little pot, not the one I was making, but one made by Alan himself, now has pride of place on our dining room table at home. That's all for now. We'd certainly like to hear of hobbies you've taken up, which perhaps initially you thought wouldn't be possible. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk, leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338, or you can go to our website if you're able, bbc.co.uk/in touch. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings and studio manager Simon Highfield, goodbye.
This is the scaffolding and skips news for the week commencing the 8th of May 2023. Newport area, 11 St James's, Lugley Street. Halifax, 116 High Street, 62 Castlehold Lane, Town Choice Cafe, Town Lane, 17 Key Street, 68 Pyle Street, 87 Trafalgar Road, 4 Carisbrooke Road, T.M. Barber Jewellers, 46 High Street, and Skips, Newport area, 38 Victoria Road.
The Ryde area, Wetherspoons, 41 to 43 Union Street, 7A Esplanade, 1920 The Strand. Skips in the Ryde area, 9 Daniel Street and 67 Monkton Street.
And in the Freshwater area, 101 School Green Road.
Cowes area, Zill High Street. Skips in the Cowes area, 23 Cross Street.
And in the Shanklin area, 63 Regent Street and 8 Eastcliff Road, and Skips in the Sandown area, 48 Dennis Road.